Well, I wanted to do, this is my video presentation on my Symbaloo, and for the things that I put into my Symbaloo. Just to let you know, I kind of divided my Symbaloo up into 4 different little subcategories as I was choosing apps, looking for 4 different things to use. I focused on content apps for my content area, which is U.S. history. I focused on apps that students could use to produce a product, perhaps something you could use in a formative assessment type situation. I focused on a set of apps that students could use as far as note-taking and as far as a quizzing type of formative assessment, just to kind of get some knowledge out of them, see where they were. And lastly, I really focused on something that we're using a lot at my school and I have a lot of familiarity with, and that's the Google Drive, the Google Drive app for the iPad and for the Google apps themselves. So we'll kind of go through each one very quickly and kind of give you an idea of how I think you could use it in class, and give you thoughts about each of those apps. Starting with content apps, Common Core for my grade level and subject, which is 11th grade social studies, modern American history, in my state, Alabama, focuses on the fact that reading comprehension is where we are really focusing on with Common Core. So 2 of the 3 apps I chose for content involved reading, and especially primary documents. One of them is an app called Docs Teach, which is put out by the National Archives. I take that back. It actually is put out by the Library of Congress, I believe. No, it is the National Archives. I had a little moment there. The National Archives. What's interesting about this app, and I have colleagues who use it at school, is it provides primary documents for the students to read. There are questions, there are ways for them to use it to kind of test their comprehension and go into that. And these are ways that students can really get involved in learning about these documents and applying them and understanding what it is they're reading, because a lot of primary documents, especially in American history, can be a little confusing, especially the older these documents are. Another app that I chose is called Congressional Moments. It also is put out by the National Archives. It has different, this one is the Library of Congress. It has different different articles. There are different primary sources. There are it uses pictures as primary sources, which I think is interesting as well. Kind of strays a little bit away from the reading content, but still, these are things that we're using in our classes, understanding art, understanding photographs, and either visual art and written art. It is again put out by the Library of Congress. It's a little more limited than the Docs Teach. Unfortunately, they organize things by topic. So there are some major topics, especially of the 20th century, the Marshall Plan, civil rights, things like that, and they focus on those specific topics, which is great for my class, modern U.S. history. But it kind of leaves out some other areas of U.S. history. The last content app I chose is a bit of a game. I think the kids learn very well from games. It's a kind of a take off Space Invaders. It's called Presidents versus Aliens, and what happens is students actually answer questions about presidents, and using their knowledge of American presidents, they're able to fight against the alien invaders who are coming in to take over Washington. So it's a kind of cute, fun little game that rewards them for their knowledge. These apps, really don't fall in that Samir model into the deep end. These are a little more replacement type apps for things you would do in class, or substitution, instead of providing a hard copy of a document with questions to go with it. You're basically making yourself paperless and sharing your students that way. So it's not quite swimming in the deep end, but it steps that way. Um, the apps that I chose, for producing products to kind of see where students are. This is a little more in the deep end of that Stammer model. This is for use. I chose Explain Everything, iMovie, ThingLink, and Pic Collage. All of these are valuable, in my opinion, apps that can be used by students to have them produce things, produce products in a class that demonstrate their knowledge of the content and knowledge of where they're at. Unfortunately, I recently used a lot of these things in a project in my class before Thanksgiving, and I got very, very mixed to poor results. The students overwhelmingly, it was a tic-tac-toe type of project where they chose certain projects within the tic-tac-toe grid. They overwhelmingly chose to write and do the traditional things. Now, perhaps, again, I'm dealing with juniors. Maybe as they're a little more comfortable with technology, as years go on, I'll get I'll get more and more kids who are willing to give it a shot at, to make digital movies and things like that. That's my hope. What I continue to push with them. To that end, I chose iMovie. I think it's a great resource to have kids make movies, whether it's a movie where they're explaining things, whether it's a movie where they're just being creative and sharing knowledge of the content by just the way that they're focusing on showing that knowledge through a story after students who've used stories and created elaborate sets, speakeasy sets, things like that when they do this. Pic Collage, I think, is a very good app to be used for combining pictures together. Again, to create posters, things like that, to demonstrate understanding and knowledge. The ability to put text on it, I think, is a good thing. These are very useful as far as allowing students to come up with some pictures and put them together and kind of link them together and show how they link. And of course, like we did in our project, it's very good for app smashing, combining things together and getting them and bringing different apps together to kind of create a larger project, a little more meaningful one that way. Explain Everything, I think, is a very good little whiteboard app. It's very good. Again, it's a way, just a tool. These apps are kind of tools for kids to be creative. As a way for kids to a good tool, allowing students to just create a whiteboard display. Again, create a little movie out of that through drawing, writing on the things on their iPad, allowing them to prepare and demonstrate again knowledge of where they're at with content. The last of these little tool apps that I went for and chose to put in my Educator Toolkit is ThingLink, and I think that this is a real powerful little tool. A lot of different things you can do with this. The ability to take these pictures in like we did in our project and set them up and be able to set links and set different types of information in there. I think it's really powerful. I think it's powerful as a teacher to be able to create something and share with students to be a resource. But at the same time, I think it's really powerful for students to be able to do the same things themselves, to be able to share their knowledge of content through using this app. Incredibly simple to use and intuitive, and I think that they'll be able to jump on that. I'm really looking forward to using it next semester. I'm going to give it a go with some of my students, see if they'll use it and prepare to use that. So again, those apps, the idea there to allow them to be creative and create products, be it a poster or a movie or whatever, that would demonstrate their own knowledge of content. The other little set of apps I chose were apps that I thought would be good for tools for the students, and also give us they overlap and they would give us the ability to quiz. To that end, I chose Notability. This, I think, is a very powerful type of app that allows students to take notes and annotate PDFs. I've used several other different apps, and my students have used several other different apps that allow them to annotate things, and Notability seems to be where they come down on what they like. My philosophy. My students have had a one-to-one model almost 2 years now, and the idea is that I kind of let them create their iPad and use it the way they want to. It's a tool, you know. That's good in that they can set it up the way they like. That's bad in that they can set it up the way they like. But Notability, I think, is a very powerful note-taking app, and it also contains game type of apps where you can set things up to quiz students, to prepare them for tests, things like that. Quizlet is a real powerful little app, web-based program that my students use. They do find that the web-based version works a little bit better than the app. At least some of them do. But the idea with Quizlet is that to create a set of flashcards to prepare for tests, to prepare for assessments, and help them to create a study aid. We start exams tomorrow. Hopefully, many of them have created a stack of Quizlet decks for their cards and for their exam, and they're preparing for that formal assessment that we'll be doing here at the end of the semester this week at my school. Quizlet also gives them the opportunity to quiz themselves. There's games involved in that, which I think are pretty powerful too. I think kids learn very well from games, even if they're hokey little games that they think are stupid, or if they're really well-involved games, they do well with learning that way. Lastly, I think it's an incredibly powerful little thing, Kahoot. Kahoot also is web-based. It's not an app per se, but Kahoot gives allows teachers, among many things, allows teachers to create game show style quizzes, which are great little study aids. It allows students to do the same thing. I think it'd be awesome in a class to assign certain portions of content and use this almost like to use Kahoot almost in like a jigsaw puzzle activity, where you have certain kids with a specific topic and they go off and they learn it, and instead of coming back and being an expert and actually lecturing or teaching or whatever their group, to use this in a way that they would get together with their expert group and learn about and become an expert on, say, the New Deal, the alphabet agencies, or be more specific, like it's called Social Security. And then come back, and instead of just teaching the original group about a topic and just kind of sharing a list of facts, which is what teenagers like to do, to create a Kahoot type quiz with them, have them create that and to share that with one another. I think that'd be a really powerful way to for the expert on, say, Social Security to really learn and become truly an expert on their topic, but it reinforce with their colleagues, with their classmates, how that would work. Kahoot, I think, is something you can use all across the deep end of the pool, preparing kids and letting them go. And the former coach in me too really likes the competition aspect of it. Too much competition can be bad, can be damaging to kids' self-esteem, but at the same time, it's not a bad thing, I think, sometimes, to allow kids to be a little competitive and to try to push themselves in each other to perform, to see if they can get their name up on the top of the list. The last set of apps I placed on my Symbaloo are Google Drive and the Google, what used to be called the Google Docs, but Google Apps, Office type apps. We use Google Drive at my school, and I think it's incredibly powerful. If you're going to have an iPad, you got to have some kind of cloud-based system for storage. The thing fills up really quick. I think it's incredibly important for kids to have this. We use Google Drive. There were some fears to whether the iPad was going to play well with Google. They have their little quirks, but for the most part, it plays well with the apps. What's most exciting is the apps that Google has continued to put out individually for the different products within its what was originally called Google Docs suite. One called Docs, which is a word processor. Sheets, which is the spreadsheet, and Slides, which is a presentation tool. all these things finally allow kids to be able to curate and edit these documents on their iPad, and that's really cool. They needed that. It was when we first got our iPads, Google didn't offer that. There really wasn't a product that was free, because these are free, that allowed that. So these are they're very important to things to be able to be used. Another big thing about that is the ability to share, the ability to collaborate. This is where, to me, you can really turn over things to kids and allow them to collaborate with one another, to open up. It's pretty easy as a teacher to be able to see the things that they're doing just by observing. Obviously in a shared document, you can see who's made edits and who's involved and who's participating. So real-time collaboration, and more importantly, if it's web-based, you can have real-time collaboration while kids are away on a field trip, like staying overnight on a band trip, or in our high school, everybody's always taking trips at some point. And we had kids who were in New York this past last week, and were able to do some things via the Google Drive with the same technology. When I've been out sick or with my kids, I've been able to share things immediately with kids, push it straight to them. So they've got assignments. There's no worry about did they get the assignment and things like that. And we're able to collaborate even while I'm home sick or taking care of a sick child. I think that's pretty powerful. And really, to turn that collaboration over to kids, the ability to collaborate and share and to create things together is really, really important. And again, takes the teacher off that pedestal at the front of the classroom, and allows kids to work together and take ownership of and be engaged in their own learning. The last little the Google thing there is forms. Forms is there's not a specific app for forms yet. You can create a form. You pretty much have to do it on your computer, but then you're able to see results with the sheets, because it saves the forms in the form of a spreadsheet. And you're able to see it in sheets on your iPad. They're able to answer them on their iPad and submit them. This thing, we recently switched over to Google Classroom at my school over the summer, and I was a part of a group that kind of got training and then took it back to our departments to share training. Google Forms is worth the price of admission for everything Google. If it was just that one little thing, it's worth it. Forms allow students to create, allows teachers to create assignments where they're going on and it collects this information for you. It's powerful for teachers in that, for example, I know teachers who have a standard conference form, and they sit down and they type it on their iPad while they're in a conference with a parent or other teachers or whatever, and boom, it spits it out into a spreadsheet for them, immediate copy of notes, and then they turn around, they can share the notes with everybody in the meeting. Also, it's awesome to let kids try to create forms, surveys. It's good for that. It's good for all kinds of different applications, collecting money and all kinds of things like that. But as far as students, very good. They're very easy and intuitive to make. I've had my students make them before to collect information, to kind of do surveys or understanding, and it's a cool thing. Very good. So I just had to choose that. As far as professional resources or ideas, I put 3. One was a scholarly article about using Google Apps to support learning. The biggest idea here behind this, I think that was really good, was again more about this idea of collaboration. I really think that the Google stuff, and I realize I sound like I'm like a product rep for Google. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, but the collaboration aspect of Google is very powerful, allowing kids to just work together on things, and that's part of what's in this article, the support given to students. And that 2 other ideas that I pulled. One is an idea of formative assessment tools. This app that I've used from Edudemic webpage. It has 4 formative assessment tools for the Chromebook classroom. but I went ahead and used it because there are ideas on here that are apps. There are things that can be used on the iPad as well. One is being Google Forms, another one being Kahoot, Socrative as well, which is another powerful app. I didn't add it to my to my toolbox, but I think because I just prefer to use Forms. That's just kind of what I'm familiar with, and I can kind of do some very similar things with Forms that I would want Socrative to do. But it's a very powerful tool. I've played with it. Students use it in other teachers' classrooms. I know it to be a powerful thing. So these apps, even though it says Chromebook Classroom, these are device agnostic kind of apps that work either way. Even though this is a Chromebook article presented by a Chromebook presenter. And lastly, the last one I looked at was about the teaching of was an article about the teaching of primary sources, which came from an article from a professor from Dominican University. Just the idea of how these apps, teaching primary sources is very important, but and how you can use it lists different apps that allow the teaching of primary sources within using an app within an iPad. It mentions Docs Teach, which is one of the apps I use. Another great app it mentions is Today's Doc, which is kind of interesting. I've played around with it before too. It presents a different doc of the day based on the date and the things like that. And you can look at yesterday's document, tomorrow's document, different documents used. So it basically sets up docs by date. And again, primary sources in reading comprehension, big for Common Core in my content areas. So, well, there you go. That's a little talk about my Educator Toolkit. I can look and see it was 22 minutes. It's probably a little too long. I'm sorry. Social studies, we like to talk. I am definitely a verbal, auditory learner and presenter. But anyway, hope you like it, and thank you very much.